Hi guys, Dr. Sean here. We've been asked some interesting questions lately, and people have been inquiring a little bit if we would maybe put together a segment for Facebook. We're going to call it Mailbag. It will be an opportunity for you guys to ask questions, for us to address them for you, maybe give you some advice or some ideas that you can try. We see a lot of things in the office throughout the week, Facebook questions we've been getting lately, and I do a radio show every Saturday that people call in and ask questions on. So I thought I would go over some of those, and so we'll call it Mailbag. It's kind of fun. Now, the question we got asked this week is about detoxing. And it's a very interesting term. Sometimes you hear the term cleanse. I need to do a cleanse. I need to do a detox. And does it actually do anything, and is it safe? There's a lot of debate around it as to its validity, and some is true, some is not. What's interesting about it, it's all about something called binding affinity. Binding affinity is the nature of one thing to hang on to another, to try to hold on. So we'll use oxygen and carbon monoxide for an example. Your oxygen bubble likes to attach to your cell, and it likes it a lot, and your cell's really happy when it's there. But carbon monoxide says, hey, wait a minute, you're smaller than me. I'm going to bump you out of the way, and I'm going to hold on to the cell. So when the oxygen comes along, he can't get on there because the carbon monoxide won't let go. And this is called a binding affinity. Now, it's very similar to if you take oxygen, imagine two people holding hands. Like when you played Red Rover when you were a kid, when you were little, you're holding hands, and they can come apart. When you put the carbon monoxide on there, it's like cuffing the hands. They don't come apart nearly as easy. And so that's a binding affinity. Now, the theory behind cleanses, detoxes, things like that, is that your own filtering organs, the liver, the kidneys, sometimes the spleen, lungs, they're not doing their job. The colon, it's not able to keep up. You've got things inside, things that need to be removed. It's a half-truth. Those organs are always working, and they're always working to their absolute best. But sometimes they need help, and that's the real key. Now, what's interesting about a cleanse, cleanses and detoxes are non-specific, and this is very important. If you get anything from this today, this is the thing to remember. So if someone's coming up to you and saying, oh, hey, we remove lead, or we remove mercury, or we get those, this poison out or that poison out, be skeptical and cautious, because what ends up happening there is there's no way to say, hey, I'm going after that one thing specifically. You have to go after everything. And that's what we mean by they're non-specific. The body can't separate one from another. So when you do some type of a cleanse, it's pulling everything out or pushing everything through, good or bad. And that's where it gets a little tricky, because sometimes when you're doing these over and over and over and over again, you can actually aggravate the body and hurt it instead of help it. Now, there are different kinds of detoxes. There's chemical and herbal ones. You'll see teas, supplements, chelators is a big term you hear a lot of times. But a lot of times these don't really pull things out of the body as much as they move it from one area to another. And you can get into trouble there sometimes when you're just pulling one thing and setting it on a different shelf. It's not really leaving the body. Now, there are certain things like chlorella and those type of things that have a binding affinity for different metals and things inside the body. But again, fairly non-specific. They're helpful, but fairly non-specific. The ones I like are the external drawing agents. You'll see things, saunas, where you sweat stuff out. The skin is the largest organ in the body. It holds things in, but it also keeps stuff out or allows you to excrete it. The lungs, there's breathing exercises. And these are all things that we do in our practice. Epsom salt soaks, which I recommend to patients all the time. And then ionic foot baths, something that actually charges the body to draw stuff back out by reversing the polarity. So there's a lot of little things like that. But even those, all of those are non-specific. They're not going after any one set thing. So remember the rule, it's better to pull things out, in my opinion, than it is to try to shove stuff through. So instead of going up with a drain that's clogged and pouring more down it to try and force it through, why not go to the other end and release the drain? So just ask yourself, what are we pulling out? How do we know when to start and when to stop? And see, if you don't have someone that can sit there and say, well, I run an exam, and my exam tells me if the body's in need of help. It tells me if it needs to detox. I know if your lymphatic system is overwhelmed. It's that simple. If you don't get that advice back from a healthcare practitioner, or they can't answer that, then maybe look for a different version. I'm Dr. Sean. I hope you enjoyed our mailbag segment.